Okay, I think we're live. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining this Fire Forum parallel session titled Transforming Europe's Food System. You're all very welcome. I'll just introduce myself quickly. My name is Dara Boyle. I'm a consultant with Evenflow based in Brussels, Belgium. We're a space technology consultancy. I'll be the moderator for the session today. I'm going to go through a little bit of housekeeping just now so that everybody knows what's going on. First of all, I could ask, could all people just mute your microphones if you're not talking, so that we can have a good, we can hear the panelists and the presenters well. The session is being recorded, just to let you all know. As moderator, I will be trying to keep to timing as strictly as I can, so please don't get offended if I interrupt you or try to move the conversation on. It's just so that we can get all the topics covered in the time we have. One thing I'll just introduce everybody's attention to is on the right-hand side, there's a panel and there's an interactivity tab. There we have some polls. So we've already opened the first poll, which is for the audience to answer. We just want to capture who's in the audience, who's listening. So the first question is, what best describes your relationship to the agricultural industry? So there's all sorts of answers there: agricultural sector representative, academia, research. You can start answering the poll there. It'll be left open while we listen to the first few discussions. That's it from me. I'm going to hand you over to our first presenter. His name is Daniel Azevedo. He's the Director of Commodities, Trade and Technology at COPA COGECA. He's the sector lead, and he's going to give you a short presentation. Daniel, I'll hand it over to you.
Hello, thank you very much, and it's an honor to be here representing the European farmers, to be the voice of 22 million farmers and their families, and also 22,000 cooperatives. We'll have the pleasure to actually listen from a farmer later on, so Max, it will give you a little bit more detail. But we, in COPA COGECA, we are trying to provide you also with a good overview about the needs of the farming community in the technology. And so we have been very big supporters of EU common policies, common agriculture policy, trade policy, the Green Deal, but also the digital single market. And we see here clear opportunities for the farming community. And therefore, we are very much interested on technology. So from a technology point of view, what do they need to provide for farmers? And we see here opportunities on improving the use of resources. We see opportunities on improving the functioning of the food chain, providing additional information to the consumer. Very often, the farmer wants to provide additional information to the consumer, but has very few tools to do so. We also see an opportunity to decrease red tape and simplify some of the administrative aspects when dealing with national paying agencies, EU policies, etc. But it's also an opportunity to improve the life conditions of farmers and their families. And so digital can provide a fantastic opportunity and the use of technologies. And so we departed from a few principles. One of those principles is the farmer should have access to a wide range of safe technologies. If they are available, if they provide a value, if they are considered safe, then the farmer should have access to those technologies. And it's also important to keep in mind that in order to uptake these technologies, in order to deliver for the EU framework, farmers will need to do additional investments. And we need to take into account that the farmer has to do this investment. Therefore, technologies need to be affordable and they need to provide a value. And the third principle is the importance to have to keep the production potential in Europe. Europe has the highest standards in terms of environment, animal health, animal welfare, plant health, food security. So it is important that our efficient production remains in Europe and that these technologies also deliver on the specificities for European agriculture, that they are developed here with our know-how, that they are adapted to the farmer's needs. And so from our point of view, there are some gaps that need to be closed. What is missing in Europe? And of course, one of them is the regulatory framework. It is important that we are open to innovation, and therefore we welcome the investment that has been done, for example, for satellite technology, where there are really clear now a wide range of tools that are available for farmers that we can take some of the value. But we would like to see also a regulatory friendly environment for innovation. One of the specific cases that we always raise is the use of drones, where we still have to test, and it's not yet possible for farmers to bring low risk substances into the farms and to spray, because we still are adapted to the previous regulation. But also in terms of NGT, so new genomic techniques, we still don't have the regulatory framework that will allow the farmers to use this technology. We're also talking about in terms of infrastructure. Access to broadband in rural areas is still very limited. There has been some improvements, but this access is limited, and we see a need in the future that we'll also have to access to the 5G coverage, and that will need some public support to reach the rural areas. We need to ensure that the citizens in rural areas have access to the same opportunities that the citizens in the cities, and we need to close this rural area city gap. Another important aspect is also consistency among the European policies. So when the Green Deal is asking us to deliver more on sustainability, and we see an opportunity for remote sensing to help us to reach there, to give us some of the tools, but when we are asked to deliver more, we need to be treated fairly. And therefore, it needs to be consistent with our trade policies. For imported products that are coming to the EU, they should follow the same standards that are asked to the EU producers. And a final aspect that we have actually contributed very much is about digital skills, and is also about the right to use data. So on digital skills, I think it is clear that for the use, for example, of remote sensing, but other technologies like processing data, IoT, even the use of biotechnology, etc. It will be important that we have the services, that we have the extension services, advisory bodies, that the farmer will have access to these structures that will help him to make the best out of these technologies. And in terms of data and the use of data, we're actually being quite proactive with some of the European organizations. I see Vic here in the panel as Max, that really participate in the elaboration of this code of conduct of data sharing, where we try to come out with some principles that will be applied across the chain that everyone agrees on. And from our point of view, what we retain is that the farmer should have the right to use and should have the right to share the data that is produced in his farm or during farm operations. And this is quite important for us, because for the farmer, it's not only about sharing his data, but this is also to get data from different stakeholders, different partners in the chain, and be able to do something about it, be able to create value, to be able to change the way he does things, as long as, of course, there is a value, that value is produced. So from our perspective, we see plenty of opportunities for remote sensing for satellite to be integrated with other technologies that will produce high quality data, that will give the farmers the tools to achieve his goals, to be able to have a decent living, to be able to have a return from his investment in his farm. And there will be provided tools also for him to deliver on the EU regulatory framework, on the new ambitious targets. We see a path forward to implement those targets, but we will need the support, the access to technology, the support to investment, and the tools to deliver. And I think in terms of remote sensing, we are going in the good direction. But I'll be very happy to hear from the other speakers as well, where they will have specific cases on how we can use this technology to help farmers and their cooperatives. Thank you very much. I'll be very happy to answer your questions.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Yeah, one more thing I can say is you can all ask questions on the panel on the right-hand side as well, and I'll be watching them and try to pick them up and then give them to the panel. But we may just hold off on questions. You can put them in, but I'll ask them at a later stage, because we're going to move on to our next speaker now, who is the recently revealed to the world as the EO evangelist for agriculture. I'd like to congratulate him. It's Ilias Peklavanides. He is a senior researcher at SMHI. Ilias, can I hand over to you?
Absolutely. Thank you very much, and for the greetings. Good afternoon to everybody. Hello to everybody. So what if we could avoid conducting expensive and time-consuming measurements in the field? And we could instead be able to be remote and yet have frequent information of the status at fine spatial resolution. I truly believe this would make our work and lives easier, but also cost effective, since it will evolve the normal business to an intelligent one. Earth observations can provide the solution to this opportunity. And today I have the privileged role as the first EO evangelist for agriculture to share successful applications for this sector, identify the challenges and barriers related to the use of Earth observations, and finally add a future perspective. I know what you're actually thinking, that before investing months or years of efforts towards building a product, the first step is actually to determine if this product is something worth doing. And the Earth observations have evolved in terms of technological capabilities, time horizons, and new opportunities. And this has led to their market uptake. We can have information about the past, we can have information about the present, and with some technologies and algorithms, we can also make a forecast and predictions to the future. Now, what type of resolution do you actually think we can reach today? 1 kilometer, 100 meters, or 10 meters? And if you thought of 10 meters, the answer is correct. I believe this is really awesome that such detailed and informative data are available, and also that the raw data can come to us at no cost. What I also like really much is that new approaches driven by the hot topic of artificial intelligence and machine learning are currently used to add accuracy and added value in the available Earth observations. Finally, the reason why I believe in this technology and its potential is that we can monitor the Earth at different scales, ranging from local to global, and of course, depending on the application. Now, there are many applications that aim to provide operation excellence, while also address the global challenges that we face today, which are population growth, climate change, and loss of biodiversity. Examples of the applications focus on the common agricultural policy monitoring, where we have smart tools that can be set based on Earth observations for paying agencies. And these tools can pinpoint cases of potential breaches of compliance and target their inspections using Earth observation information on the crop classification. In addition, continuous CAP monitoring can allow the identification of seasonal and interannual trends on agricultural land. Another example has to do with precision farming that allows monitoring at a field scale, which leads to timely estimation and forecasting of the yield. Precision farming also allows hotspot detection, zones subject to contamination, and can be used as an alerting mechanism to farmers in the case of actionable information. A third example has to do with the insurance, where we have damage assessment tools that can be set up using Earth observation based parameters for meteorology, for leaf, for soil information, and assess them using historical statistical ranges. For the assessment, one can combine also information on the regional risk and hazards and vulnerability to quantify the damage. But of course, there are barriers for a full uptake of the Earth observation products and services. And therefore, it is also important to firstly identify them and further provide solutions. There's been a survey together with the users that identified these barriers, and these four that I have highlighted here are those that they are mostly prioritized. And there's also another of them still there that needs to be fixed. The examples I have here as a kind of like high priority has to do with insufficient earth observation knowledge and skills at the industry level, that the data are too kind of like raw, that there are privacy issues and perception of high complexity data. But having barriers is not the problem, since we have kind of like solutions. So the next step is for us to translate these barriers into user needs. And nowadays, what we have is information packages so that the data can be understandable by anyone. We have training programs for everyone to allow them to use the data. We are bringing the earth observation experts to the industry, and actually vice versa, in order to allow this exchange of knowledge. And in the case of confidentiality, there can be an encryption of data and certain resolution levels. So probably you are mostly wondering how far we are for technology plug and play. The answer is that these applications are not at the plug and play stage at the moment, and it needs customization for each case. But there are ways and examples to do so. One example is has to do with the Earth Observation Information Discovery Platform, where the users can play and explore different type of data and parameters. And there are also algorithms in the platform that are aiming to fit your specific needs. In the case that these algorithms are not very much extensive for your needs, then you have also the option as a user to suggest new pilot functions. And also for the existing ones, there's a kind of like support, and you can get personal recommendations about these algorithms. A second example that I have here has to do with the network of Earth observation knowledge, kind of like a knowledge center. And this is the place that builds a community of practice where the Earth observation and the industry experts meet and exchange knowledge. For the farmers, there's an instant recognition of this effort, and you can also make specific profiles with encrypted data. And the good thing in this type of community of practices is that they are products for training and improved understanding in order to build your capacity. Now, for concluding this presentation, I only have 3 take-home messages. Firstly, is that the Earth observation products have evolved in time quite significant, and nowadays they are reliable, provide reliable information at very fine, spatial, and temporal resolution. And this is the reason that has led to an uptake of these products in the agricultural sector. The examples I gave today is actually that had to do with the CAP monitoring, with the food security, and also with insurance and damage assessment. There are finally some efforts towards Earth observation-based solutions in order to address the barriers in the agriculture sector. The problem is not that we have barriers. The challenge is there to identify solutions. And the solutions are driven by pilots of the Earth Observation Discovery Platform, which is available there in order to meet the individual user needs and build capacity to the users. And also these big efforts on setting up a community of practice that allow the co-evolution of the knowledge and finally of the services running. Now, if somehow I sprung your interest, the first step would be for you to spend 5 minutes to search about Earth observations and then contact me afterwards. In order for us to continue the dialogue, I would recommend that you post something related to Earth observations on the social media so that we can connect and exchange knowledge and also solutions. Thank you very much for your attention.
Elias, thank you very much. Once again, congratulations on being named the EU Evangelist for Agriculture. And thank you for the very interesting presentation. We'll be coming back to those types of topics towards the end of our panel discussion also. First of all, I just want to go through a couple more things. You may notice if you're in the audience, we have a graphical recorder on one of the screens. I presume the audience can also see that. So we've got an artist capturing the whole, all the things we talk about, and that's going to be presented later on at the plenary. So here we go, there's the screen. A few other things, the interactivity poll on the right. So going by the answers we got on the first question, it seems most people in the talk are from the EO service provider, or from an EO service provider, and are currently working in the industry. So I'll try to gauge the conversation a little bit around what you would like to hear. What I'm going to do now is open the first wave. The panel discussion is in 3 waves, I should mention first. We have 3 themes. The first theme is trends. So what are the overarching industry trends that's going to shape the way the industry looks in the future? The second theme is challenges. So what are the challenges of the agricultural sector and how do we think we're going to overcome them? And finally, the third theme is Earth observation and how it can address the challenges and address the trends that are coming up in the industry. So if you go to the interactivity poll on the right, it's actually wave 1 is actually at the bottom. It's open now, and I just want to capture what the audience thinks the major trends, and we're kind of focusing on the near term here. So the question is, in a recent publication, EIT Food has combined expert insights and analysis to highlight the top 5 trends in the agri-food industry in 2021. So this is what some experts felt are going to be the big trends we're going to see in the near future. So which of the following do you see as being the most impactful in our food systems? And the options are that consumers' diets will be more health focused, convenience and technology will accelerate. We all saw that with the pandemic. People are doing more online shopping, getting things delivered more than actually going to the shop and buying them. Alternative and plant-based proteins will grow in popularity. Sustainability and waste reduction will become increasingly important. And finally, consumers will seek new flavors and experiences. So this is what a panel of experts thought might be the big trends. Let's see what our audience thinks might be the big trends. So without further ado, I'm going to go into the panel discussion. I need to introduce the rest of our panelists. So I would like to introduce, first of all, Ana Maria Dongia. She is a principal administrator at the International Center for Advanced Mediterranean Agronomic Studies. Welcome, Ana Maria. I'd like to introduce Max Schulman. He's an advisor in cereals and oilseeds at the Central Union of Agricultural Producers and Forest Owners. And finally, Vic van de Caffe, who works with CNH Industrial. Welcome to the 3 speakers. The discussion here is going to involve the 3 panelists, but also Elias and Daniel will also be getting involved, and we'll hopefully be able to come up with some nice answers for the audience. So I will open the first question on the panel. So this is in wave 1 on trends. I'll come back to you, Daniel, to begin with. Given the numerous worrying trends, so we all know climate change, trade wars, etc., are you personally worried about the future of Europe's food security? I think you're still on mute, Daniel. There we go.
It's working. Perfect.
Yeah.
So we have been delivering food security and affordable and nutritious food for the last 60, 70 years. And that, I think, has been one of the biggest successes of Europe and is the Common Agriculture Policy. It has delivered, and as we have a reputation internally, but also externally, to deliver the highest standards in terms of food safety, environment, animal health, animal welfare. And we will continue delivering in terms of food security. And I think this period that we are currently going is the COVID had a huge impact, the restrictions had a huge impact on the activities of the farmers and the cooperatives, but we delivered. There was no lack of food in any supermarket. It was very difficult for farmers to deliver. There was some lack of masks. We had some issues internally with the single market when there were some blockages. There was lack of manpower, sometimes of labor. but we deliver, and if we manage to show that the agri-food sector is resilient, and we will be able to deliver. Now we are entering a period where we're discussing not only finalizing the common agriculture policy, but also we are designing the Green Deal and all the pieces of regulation that will come together. And these regulations will have a big, perhaps the major impact in generations on the EU agriculture. And we see a path towards delivering on those targets. But we will need to be able to invest, and we'll need to have access to technologies such remote sensing. It's a very good example. And we will need the tools to deliver that. So from a farmer's perspective, and I think Max will be able to tell you more, we will be able to do it.
Well, then let's ask Max. Max, just before we joined, you were telling me that you had a very difficult spring in terms of the weather. Are you worried about the way things are going and for the food security?
That's a very good question. I mean, worried and worried. I mean, when I look today at what is happening all over Europe, a little bit like what Daniel was telling, is that we have been able to deliver the food for the European citizens, even during the COVID pandemic. But at the same time, we have also been able to farm, even if we see a big change in the climate as well. So we are very resilient when it comes in to cope with these kind of things that are very tangible, even if they come up very fast. The biggest problem, what I see, and even real worry, is that we nowadays have a legislation that actually is, at least it is moving to such an extent and so fast that it's very, very difficult for us food producers, farmers, to really stay with it in the pace what the rest of the society would like us to be. We need time when we go into these kind of changes to be able to also in the future give this kind of a food security and food safety measures as well, what the European citizens are actually used to today. So yes, for sure, I am, as a farmer myself, I am a bit worried about the situation what we have today, since we also feel from the farmers' side that we are quite far away today from the understanding and the knowledge of the rest of the citizens, what we really do, what we really deliver, and how we are really doing it. And I think that we have somehow, people have taken these things for granted. There is food on the shelves in the supermarket. They do not really think about from where it comes. So yes, I'm worried.
Okay, well, I mean, speaking of worry, and we've already touched on it, we can't have a plenary without mentioning the thing that has dictated all of our lives for the last over a year. And it's obviously the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm sure that was very worrying in itself. As you say, we still managed to get food to everybody's tables, but what did the pandemic expose in our food supply chains? Did it expose any particular weaknesses? Did it expose any sectors that are particularly vulnerable? Maybe we'll go to Vic on this question.
Yeah, thanks. I just confirm what Max is saying. We're taking this this abundance of food for granted, but it isn't. And if there's one thing that the COVID taught us, it is that there are vulnerabilities, and the COVID pandemic might have been a small thing we could have overcome, but there are much more risky things that we need to look at for the future, I believe. So I think the COVID was a wake-up call. Climate change might not be so easy to overcome, and there's some more other things that we need to have a look at as well.
Yeah, maybe Max, back to you. From a farmer's point of view, did you see any vulnerabilities or weaknesses that were exposed from the pandemic?
Actually, not too much in the beginning, but then once the COVID pandemic did become a little bit deeper and started to involve the rest of the world, we could feel that there are certain products when it comes in that we need in the farming sector. For instance, we need vitamins, we need pesticides, plant protection products, and we suddenly saw that the globalization has actually moved the manufacturing places somewhere else in the world, and not inside Europe anymore. And then we could see that there became a very big challenge with the logistics. Suddenly the logistics did not work. So we could not just get these into our possession just in time when it was usually needed. So I think that we got the wake-up call, not only we as farmers, but I would say that we as farmers are part of the chain. And I think the whole chain got the wake-up call that we cannot just rely on these kind of a free movement of everything just in time, fast from all over the world. Now we saw that suddenly vessels were stuck in the ports. Containers did not move, lack of containers. So I think that we have to maybe rethink, that we have to look at it, yes, absolutely globally as we are part of it, but we also have to look at regional ways, EU level, member state level, to make sure that we can cope with these kind of disturbances that, in my opinion, will occur more and more the further we go into the future.
Yeah, for sure. I might track back a little bit to Anna Maria, bring you in on a question. In terms of being worried about the future of our food supply, you're an expert in plant protection. Are you worried from that point of view? Sorry, I think your microphone is... We can't hear you. No, we can't hear you, Anna Maria, sorry. Oh, there we go. Oh, she's gone. I think we've lost Anna Maria, but maybe she'll come back in.
Yeah, but I can just tell you very fast. I mean, some plant protection products we could see that did just not come on time, so we got them in our hands, depending on where you are in Europe, too late. For instance, I mean, we got them, yes, and you can see in statistics, yes, they moved, but if they come 3 weeks too late, they are no use. So I mean, this became like a big challenge, and I know that for the machinery side, I mean, components, it was also a big problem to move. But plant protection is something that you need them, and you need them exactly at a certain point. Otherwise, they are of no use until the next season.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
this is something that occurred.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, sorry, we've lost Anna Maria. I'm sure she'll be back pretty soon. I might just forward another question to you, Daniel. From your point of view, you work for COPA COGECA. How is the industry? You represent thousands and thousands of farmers and farming cooperatives. How do the industry feel about the farm to fork strategy? What's the type of feedback you've been getting?
Mm-hmm. So the farming community, and we believe that not only the farm to fork, the biodiversity strategy that also brings important elements that will have a huge impact on the farming. We think that there is a path forward to deliver on there, but we also feel that there are now more questions than ever. We had a debate already for 1 year, and we still have a lot of questions to answer. For example, these important policies will have a huge impact across agriculture, across the food chain, and we still haven't seen an impact assessment. What will be the impact on the ability of farmers to invest? What will be the impact on the food security? What will be the impact on the farmers' income? Will they be able then to continue investment? What are the tools that we need to remain competitive? So, the COVID showed that we were resilient, but if we want to continue to maintain the production potential in Europe, what will be the tools that will be available for farmers? So we see technology, we see remote sensing as one of those tools that it can help us to deliver, but we need much more. We need to have access to the cutting edge technology. If we are to remain competitive, we need to be able to compete with the rest of the world. We need to be able to access technology like new genomic techniques, to use drones, so that we can link everything, to have access to data. And that is clear. We need to be able to invest. We need to, for example, be in the front run of, for example, satellite technology or remote sensing. We are lucky that some of the major players in these technologies are in Europe. They understand what our needs are, and we cannot afford to be in the front run of certain technologies and then they move out to other parts of the world, because in terms of regulatory framework, we are not able to deliver. And then we need to pay an extra in order to be competitive. And of course, we need a consistency between the different policies.
So there needs to be a balance between what regulation demands and what technology can provide in order to keep farmers competitive.
We need to remain science-based. So if the science says this technology is not safe, then no argument. We don't use it. But if the science says this technology is safe, everyone can use it. There are the many years that they have been using in other parts of the world, there is no safety concern. Then it will be very hard for a European producer to see importing products coming in that use that technology and competing with us while we can't.
Yes.
And that is just unfair.
I see. And I mean, a follow-up question to this. There's two things we can't have this plenary without mentioning. Obviously, COVID is one, and the Common Agricultural Policy is the other. Maybe back to you again, Daniel. What is the feedback on the new CAP? Obviously, different farmers in different parts of Europe have different needs and have different opinions on what it's going to do for their region. Can you even give an overall feedback, or is it a mixed response?
Yes, we have I think the Common Agriculture Policy is very consensual among farmers. All our positions are unanimous. The Common Agriculture Policy and what it delivered in terms of food security, food safety, environment, animal health, animal welfare, affordable food, and it's not only affordable; it's recognized, high quality, nutritious food has been perhaps the biggest success the European Union has delivered. It is by far, it has delivered in all its objectives. Now, it is normal that it has to evolve. And now we have more and more concerns to deliver on environment. We are ready to do that. And that's why we have been very supportive of the Common Agriculture Policy, and we believe it is going to be delivered. And we hope the European Parliament, the Council, and the Commission will finalize this as soon as possible to provide a couple of things for farmers. Certainty, because we need certainty for investments. And we need also a modernized and more simple policy so that we'll be able to focus on other priorities. And it is very interesting to see that the Common Agriculture Policy is more open and is promoting the use of technology to deliver for precision farming. And we think this is an important tool. The Common Agriculture Policy already foresees support to investment, and we see farmers to be able to use the Common Agriculture Policy to invest more and more on their farms. And so it is a part of the puzzle. It's not the only policy that can deliver. And I would like to recall, for example, that some of the money that were not used from the Common Agriculture Policy was used for the satellite project of the European Union, some of that money. And now we wanted to see it also delivering for farmers, and we want to see the services. And we are very excited about the possibilities that this technology will actually help us, for example, to simplify the controls, to give us information even before we get a fine. Imagine that we do something wrong, but this technology can help us to prevent that, to improve compliance, to understand what will be the environment impact. So we are very excited about it. But we need investment infrastructure. We need other European policies to invest on broadband. We need digital skills. We need we need the support of all the EU policies for this.
I see. I mean, I'm sure we could talk about the CAP. Everyone will have comments on the CAP. It's such a huge policy, and it affects so many people's lives. But unfortunately, I'm going to have to move on to the second wave of questions. Maybe we can come back a little bit towards the end of the CAP if we have some time. The second wave of questions we have is to do with gaps and challenges. So, Vic, I might start with you. You're coming from the agricultural machinery kind of sector. What parts of the sector do you think are most vulnerable to losing their value in the future due to the adoption of new technologies? For example, field workers and small farmers. Where do you see the vulnerabilities?
Well, agriculture has become a high-tech environment. So it requires a lot of knowledge, more knowledge than what used to be common in agriculture. So to have all that knowledge, you need a certain bandwidth. So the small farms are probably the ones who are going to suffer the most at this time, because the technology is not mature and user-friendly enough for everybody to use. So some ways to overcome this is that for data and data which can come from satellites, for example, to interpret that data, if farmers would work together in data cooperatives, they can also use the technology. Other ways to get organized is that they leverage external technology and data advisors. So we see in the US that the use of external advisors is like 3 times what we have in Europe. So I think there's an area that we can improve there. And there's some other integrated supply chain models which pop up when we have processed food, where we have centralized, just like in manufacturing, centralized planning, and those centralized organization will provide the knowledge for the farmer, so that the farmer is an element in the complete production change, and that way can still use the technology and be more productive than he is today.
Thank you very much, Vic. Max, I might come to you with a question. Agriculture has an aging workforce. I think a lot of us are aware of that. As we adopt new technologies, how do you see this balance between the aging workforce and the adoption of new technologies playing out? Is there going to be something missing in the middle there?
That's a very, very good question. For sure, I mean, you can always see that once you get the new phone in your hand, you always have a challenge to start using it and all of these. But I would not always put it into the age that there is a, certain age, it's more difficult than another age. I would say we as farmers, we have always been using technology to help ourselves, to help the work we are doing. It's heavy work and all these. And we are very good in learning. Extremely, extremely good on learning. The thing is that many times people, they have the beliefs that, first of all, we are slow in adapting things. That is not true. We are slow in coming there with a big amount of farms at the same time, because it needs the money to do the investments, so that we also then need to make sure that we can see the light in the end of the tunnel. So we see that the policies in place actually is a little bit longer than just a 2-3 years sprint. Then we are ready to invest more and also learn to use this. So I would say that the skill comes also through the investment into new technology. We also learn. For sure, the younger you are, the more you will bring with you from, for instance, from your studies, already from the school, etc. But that does not mean that all the farmers of today there sitting already in the tractor, all at their farm computer, doing quite good jobs in doing new calculations or looking into the trends to plan what they might plant in the next 2 to 3 years, that they would not be able to learn it. I would say that we can learn. Yes, we are a very old profession. That we are. I mean, come on, you always have to eat. But we are guaranteed not old-fashioned. We follow the trends, we follow the technology, we follow the hardware, and today we follow the software. And we put them to work for us. And to be able to do this even faster, we also need to make sure that policy is put in place. Like you just said, let's not talk too much CAP. The new CAP should also be able to deliver a security for the farmer so that they can invest into the future, and in that way also help to keep the food security to high standards and deliver also some environmental sides as well. That is part of what we do. We work with the environment. We work under a big roof, most of us. We take it always in consideration. Now we just need to do it maybe a little bit better. And I would not say better. We have to do it more open. We have to be able to communicate it down the line. We have to be able to communicate through the whole chain, all the way to the consumers, that we are also consumers, down to us. And from that on, we need now information flow back to us. We already deliver information. Now we need to find out what you really want to know.
Great, Max. Very well said. Thank you for the comprehensive answer. I might just go back to the polls. I had opened the poll at the start, but I forgot to mention. On the right-hand side, and the interactivity for the second wave of challenges, we have opened the poll. Apologies for not mentioning it earlier. The question we have is, what do you think is currently the greatest threat to the future and longevity of our food supply chains? So is it economic uncertainty, climate change, political and policy issues, low technological adoption, declines in workforce numbers, or population growth? And I'll just go back and reflect on the Wave 1 poll. The top answer in the Wave 1 poll, and what is going to be the most impactful trend in the near future. The biggest answer we got there was the sustainability and waste reduction will become increasingly important. So there you go. So yeah, the Wave 2 poll is on. Please feel free to vote on it. Anna Maria, hopefully your microphone is now working. Oh,
no,
there we go.
Wait a minute. Do it down. Wow. Sorry.
No problem.
No.
No, it's off again.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Great. Sorry.
No problem. No problem.
Yeah.
So Anna Maria, as an expert in plant protection, we might come to you. Can you give us a little overview about what exactly does plant protection involve? What kind of technologies are there? And the theme of this discussion is the challenges. So what are the challenges faced in the field of plant production?
Okay, so I follow the previous discussion, so no doubts about digitalization as, the beneficial effect and combined with remote sensing. Now, plant pests and diseases on intensive crops usually can be surveilled and also controlled using also remote sensing technology, because the type of cropping is extensive, is homogeneous, etc. Now, different story is if we're dealing with fruit tree crops. This is really a tricky part of the story, because we need really accurate and very high resolution approach as a data. And so we have to distinguish what is now we can use and is available as technology and that we can use is for certain type of crops and not for all. This is must be very clear. And for other crops, for fruit tree crops, is a different story. Personally, I think, and I think Daniel probably pointed out this, what we have to focus the attention is on proactive approach, which means we have to make a very precise surveillance of plant pests and diseases and to early detect. So to have a proactive approach means to, let's say, to control the problem before it becomes a real threat for the crop. And so on this, I think the remote sensing approach is really, really important, because I can provide data or something that is occurring, but at the early stages and can be prevented. And this is okay for combining this approach with any production system, eco-friendly, like organic or integrated pest management. Let's say now we talk on precision, organic farming, precision, integrated pest management farming, because we need to combine remote sensing or other technologies to early detect the problems. So this is the trend for plant protection.
Very good. Thank you very much, Anna Maria. That's great. I'm just looking at the graphic here. We're getting so much information. I think the artist is struggling to fit everything in, which is probably a good thing.
Sorry if I interrupt you. Just I want to add one important thing.
Yeah, please.
Because I'm also involved in training education programs. Now, I heard, of course, education, high skills in information technology, in remote sensing, geomatic, but I think we have to think to mixed skills, mixed competence. When we discuss an agronomist or a plant protection technician with an IT expert or a geomatic expert, well, they don't speak the same language. So what we need is people, IT people, or remote sensing expert people, dramatic people that learn about agronomy or something about agronomy as a background, and the same of agronomists and plant protection technician that can learn a little bit about IT and remote sensing tools, because they have to communicate, and the company or the research must focus on solving that problems, but they have to understand the problems. So this is what we are trying to focus attention for education training programs.
Great. Well, that brings me on to my next question. This is a kind of bridging question. We're still in the section on gaps and challenges, but the final question in this part of the discussion is, from your point of view, what is the current status of the role of EO in agricultural applications? How prevalent is it? Is it very commonly? Would you describe it as very commonly used? Would you describe it as maybe a lot of people are not fully aware of all of the benefits that can be taken from EO? Maybe Anna Maria will come back to you on that.
Yes, as I was saying, for some cases, for some, as I say, crops, it's already, I think, widely used, especially not much for plant protection, probably more for yield estimates, for soil analysis, for water, but not much for plant protection. But again, there is a big differences depending from the size, from the context of the farm. But I think that there are different level of readiness that the farmer can use. And so most of the farmers can use only freely available data from of satellite data, and but they have a limitation. I heard before about resolution that can be at the maximum 10 meters. No, so can be good for some purposes and not for other. Again, if you want to early detect a pest, is not enough, for example. So this is the gap. And for if you are dealing with production yield, is okay. And so it depends for which purpose you are using the technology. So in some cases is currently available and is really efficient. In other case is not yet efficient. So you can have not an accurate idea what is going on in your farm. And of course, I was saying different technical level of readiness. So we're speaking about satellite data. Of course, we have technology, also a satellite, they are not free, they are more accurate, but they need high skills. So on the agriculture and farmers do not use because they are costing. Aerial scale is, aircraft scale is also more expensive and need high skill as well for management of data. And so there are limitations for the farm. And then we have the drone technology, which is very challenging for the farm as a level of readiness, but still a lot of research needs to be done for, especially plant protection.
Great, thank you, Anna Maria. Max, we might come back to you from a farmer, even maybe from any small farmers that you're in contact with. Is Earth observation a very common thing for them to use? Is it well understood? Is it well known about?
I would say that it is starting to be quite well known about, that it can be obtained good pictures and you can use the satellite pictures that we have here in Europe. But how well it is then really used on day-to-day business, that is still, you can see a big difference in between farms. You might see some smaller farms with very much specialized cropping and all of these that are very far using them. They're really looking at them extremely well. They're following the advice coming in through there. And then you can see some of the bigger farms that are more maybe extensive farming, bigger holdings, that they see that they get enough information just from their own machinery with their own yield maps, etc. But now we see that people are starting to combine these more and more. And that also means that we need to have a good way of interconnect information in between the earth observation system, the farm management system that we have on the farms, through the machines, all the different machines that we work on the farm level. So from the combine down to the tractors, to the tillers, sprayers, etc. This interconnectability is still just being developed. And here we have an opportunity for small and medium-sized SMEs coming in there and providing solutions in these gaps, so that you would be able to connect them easy and really find the best way for all the different sizes of the farmers to find the use of them. But we see that there is more and more effort from the farmers' side today to look at and to bring in the earth observation information into their farming practices. And we see more and more also of the advisors, the advising services coming in, using these to get farmers used to do it them as well, etc. So we see that there is a learning process ongoing. But the main thing there is the interconnectability. Once we get these seamlessly working, that you can move simply, easy the data in between and do it really from my data through sharing into big data that you can bring back onto the farm, but also forward inside the chain, then we have achieved it. And then the earth observation system will really play a major role. It does already today. And coming back to drones, I mean, they can be used in many ways. I have been flying drones on my farms for 7-8 years already now in different ways. And now we are working on sensors to them, etc. So, I mean, we also upgrade, we also evolve, as does the technology. And also there is a price issue for sure. First, you have a contractor using these tools and technologies, and slowly you will start investing in them together, maybe with some neighboring farms, etc. And slowly you will have the region then actually quite nicely filled with the technology needs for that and for that type of farming. So I see it's coming and it's moving actually quite fast today.
So it's coming, but there are still some gaps, mainly interconnectivity, as you said. Very good. I think that can be the end of wave 2 on the gaps and challenges. Just looking at the poll, the audience poll, we can see that what do you think is currently the greatest threat to the future of our food supply chains? And we've got 50% of people voting for climate change. So there you go. We'll be taking all this data afterwards as well and reporting that to the plenary session later on. So we encourage everyone, please interact with the polls. Please ask questions. At the end, I'll come through the questions that have been provided from the audience, and we'll try to ask our panel when we have time. So what I'll do is move on to the final wave. I'll actually start the poll now. So wave 3 is specifically about Earth observation and what it can do to address some of the issues in agriculture. So the question for wave 3 is, where do you see EO generating the most value in the agri-food sector? Now, I actually will be giving this question to the panelists themselves as well, so we can see if you line up in your thinking. So there's vegetation monitoring, yield protection, climate services, precision farming, so the likes of variable rate application, regulation and compliance, environmental impact monitoring, food supply chain monitoring, and agri-insurance. So please vote on the polls, and then we'll ask our panel what they think about that, and we'll see is there any consensus. So for the first question on wave 3, I'd like to come to Vic. Vic, maybe you can give this a bit of an answer from the industrial, maybe farm machinery point of view, if you can. If you were able to design the R&D strategy for merging Earth observation and agriculture, where would you focus your efforts? Where would you put your money?
Good question. I think all elements are there. I think we need to cross the bridge in bringing the technology, the value-added decision-making advice to the farmer. I think we know enough. What's missing is, like Max is saying, if you're doing innovation, innovation for me is not only inventing new things, it's bringing new things to fruition. So the interconnectivity, farmers, like if I may go back to the prior question, like we see that 10% of farmers is using software, and from that 10%, maybe 10% is using Earth observation images. So it's probably there's still a big potential. So what we need to focus on is bringing ways to bring that advice to the average farmer. I give you an example what I experience in real life. So we've got customers interested in Earth observation images, but the resolution is not high enough. So we look at suppliers that can bring that high resolution images that farmers need. But then we need to buy 10,000 hectares at a time, while a farmer only needs like 100 hectares. So if there would be sufficient adoption of the technology, then there would be a buffer in between where somebody can store all that images and then sell them in small pieces, and we could help with that. Another element that you didn't mention where satellite images can bring a lot of value is in the logistics. So, and there you don't need high resolution images. Like if we're harvesting a field, what field are you going to harvest first? Well, if you could get the advice from from up in the sky, that would be an easy decision. So you can plan your logistics better and you get immediate effort. So I would spend my innovation money in the quick wins where it can bring value and where it doesn't cost a lot of money. And I think that way we could slowly grow the adoption of the technology and come to all the advanced spraying and other applications later on.
Thanks, Vic. Ilias, as our EO evangelist, can I ask you the same question? If you were in charge of designing the R&D strategy for merging EO and agriculture, where would you put your money?
Yeah, and I'm a little bit biased from what I see at the poll right now. I tend to. I'm not sure actually if I have a clear result on that. I was just thinking more with my own background, like what would be the impact, for instance, if this technology exists or doesn't exist in a normal, let's say, year, and what would be kind of like the impact in an extreme year. And by impact, I mean kind of like economic benefits and losses. And I think we are under kind of like different global challenges. And as I mentioned in the chat, to me, these challenges are going to be more kind of like emphasized into the future because there's dependencies. And since there are dependencies, the expected kind of like negative impacts to me would be amplified. And therefore, I would focus more on kind of like forecasting. So I would have voted more on this option of vegetation monitoring and yield prediction in order to kind of like mitigate some extreme situations in the future.
Okay, very good, very interesting. And maybe Max, from a farmer's point of view, down at field level, where do you want to see money get put in terms of research and development?
That's a very good question. And I think that the first thing what I would say is that from a farmer perspective, what I always tell to them is that, guys, follow the money. Either where you will have a higher cost if something happens badly, or from where you will have the biggest gain. So, I mean, 1 year it might be that you really have to follow your crops to make sure, since the market is high, you want to get the best value out of the crops. You have to make sure that you have a certain quality coming out of there. So you might focus on the field, on the crop itself, and to make sure that you, for instance, have a good early warning system on different type of disease, mycotoxins, etc., so that you can go in and make sure that you segregate the grains or harvest, like Vic said, certain fields first before the others, etc. Some other years it could be that you see already that the crop since the crop might not be the best, the market is low, then you again have to make sure that you are getting everything out of the common agriculture policy so that you are not making any mistakes in all of these. Then you would be again following to see, do I really comply with all the legislational things that are happening there? So the thing is that farming is not black and white. It is 100% gray. So you need to make sure that you can use these things from year to year and even during the year itself. So absolutely you have to be able to forecast. You have to be able to have early warning. You have to look into compliance. And you would for sure like to see also all of these data mixed together so that you would be able to make some kind of a risk management proposal for yourself and put it in place so that you would maybe either have an insurance or then go in and build up your own risk management system through different contracts, selling into the future, etc. So you see, it is very complex, and this makes it so difficult to say that you have to adapt this and this technology today. And this is the worst thing, because if you are forced through legislation to go in, for instance, just to cut down on pesticides, and you invest in that, invest in new sprayers that can do this and everything else, could be that it is only valuable for you during a very short period of time. Maybe for the legislational side, it is worth at that point and maybe further in. But for me as a farmer, it could be that actually I will use it 3-4 times and then it comes new biocides, and after that, come on, business as usual. So we are anyway going in there and looking at the field. So we will never still just sit inside, look at the computer. We are still going to go out in the field and see what am I supposed to do now. But we can get help from the technology more and more to ease up our life and be able to become better in what we do and serve also better the big public and the food chain.
Very good. Thank you, Max. Anna Maria, I might come to you with a question. If you imagine an Earth observation company who maybe don't know much about agriculture, but want to provide services to farmers and to the agricultural sector, what does an EO company need to know about the agricultural sector that will give them the maximum impact, that will make farmers, agricultural cooperatives, scientists, it will give them the biggest value? What should EO companies know?
Well, I think we tremendously need the companies. Without companies, I think we cannot apply anything. But to deal with the agricultural needs, as I was mentioning also before, they have to focus on customized tools. So they don't have, in reality, transfer knowledge that is tools and technological approach in other, sector and transfer to agriculture. They have really to understand the problems of agriculture and try to focus the attention and solve those problems. So in reality, they have to invest in, let's say, in try to develop new tools. For example, let's speak about sensors. What is available in the market is not really meeting all the needs of the farm. So they have to invest in new sensors. And they have to, for example, for specific crops or for specific problems affecting those crops, they have to develop specific packages of wavelengths, so specific sensors to solve those problems in a more customized way. So I think this is one of the things that, this is what we ask to companies. Yeah. So they have to take results of research and try to develop what the research is giving us results. So they don't have, what is happening in the market most of the time is that you don't find what you need. That is the problem.
So there's a disconnect between the specific things that farmers need and what is coming out of research programs.
You have to deal with what market give you as available, but that's not the way. If I have a researcher and I give some results of research that can give input for development of sensors, they are more focusing on a specific problem, someone of this company must try to develop these sensors. Otherwise, we continue to just play with what is available.
Daniel, I might ask you, Sorry, Anna Maria.
Sorry, of course, sensors is not only the technological, intended as a technological way, but also as sensors. They are cheap, they are also light to mount on also very light platforms. So there are many things that companies can do.
Okay, thank you, Anna Maria. Daniel, I might ask you the same question. Do you agree with Anna Maria that there is a gap between what the farmers and the cooperatives are requiring and what is actually in the market available? Do we need more interaction between the two to get specific results for the specific farmer level?
Yes, indeed, I would agree with that, and that's why we, as farmers and cooperatives, we have joined already a few platforms. One of them is the UTP Plans for the Future, where we team up with academia, where we team up with the industry to try to come out with what are the priorities in terms of research and innovation, because we need to have the farmers integrated. And I would even suggest that, when I go to conferences like this, I very often have technology promoters that come to me and said, I found the solution for all your problems. We have a technological solution that will solve everything in your farm. My first 2 points are farming is very diverse, and so you have specific needs. And the second is, I doubt that you have the solution. But if you would spend 2, 3, 5 weeks in a farm, you will find out 20 commercially viable solutions for the problems of the farmers. And then you will not need to promote your product because the neighbors, they will hear about it. And so the important here is to build research and innovation around the farmer-centric. If you solve a problem that exists, you don't need to promote your product.
Exactly. Thank you, Daniel. I might give what I said when we opened the poll, the Wave 3 poll, which was, where do you see EO generating the most value in the agri-food sector? I might just give that question to maybe Vic. Which application, or do you see an application that, let's say, in 20 years' time, it's going to be very common in that application for, I don't know, for example, maybe precision variable rate application. And do you also see any applications that we've currently listed that you don't see a future for EO in?
Yep. Well, sure. Yield prediction, I see that certainly come to fruition. I think in all software in the future, in your apps, when you plan farm activities, you will get a satellite image, as simple as you've got a Google Earth map. I believe more than 50% of farmers will use this and can benefit from that. I see nobody voted for agri-insurance, but actually the agri-insurance companies are heavily investigating these technologies and also drone imaging. So I see that that will happen in the future for sure as well, although nobody voted it. Food supply chain monitoring will require data from other areas as well, not only satellite imaging, so that will be a difficult one. I think the next step also for Earth observation is to combine imaging data with other data from on the farm. Issue that we have today is that satellite images are not calibrated over time, and I think the value will be in combining data. Now, for the ones that won't make any value in the future, I think they're all valid here. So we will see elements of all of this. So I can't think about anything that will not generate value.
Well, that's good to hear, at least. One more question, and then we may open up for some of the audience questions. Maybe coming back to Daniel. There's huge investment in agricultural startups. In my job, we see that there's startups, and especially Earth observation powered startups coming onto the scene at quite a rate now. In the future, let's say 10, 20 years time, due to all these startups popping onto the scene, do you have any opinion on how they're going to change the way agriculture is done and the industry itself?
Yeah, we have an opinion. Farmers, since the doom of agriculture, they have applied the most innovative technology. Right now, when you eat something, when you have food on your plate, this is a piece of technology. It's the most advanced systems have been implemented to produce that food, and farmers have been able to adapt to the technologies that they have. They adapt their farms to those technologies. It's completely different when you use a tractor or when you don't use a tractor. If you go to plants and flowers production in a greenhouse, it's very automatized and is there to simplify the life of the farmer. And so all these technologies that are coming, they will obviously have a huge impact on the way the farm runs, on the way the farm is organized, and most likely the way it's integrated in the value chain and with the partners. But one thing will not change. The farmer will be the one making the decisions. The tools that he will have available will change, but it will still the farmer who will take the decisions, what to do, what to grow, and how to grow it. Of course, he has to adapt to the regulatory environment. But we expect to have more automated systems. We expect to have more data processing capabilities. We expect to have artificial intelligence systems that will enable to, as Vic and Max were saying, that will provide the decision-making support that the farmer needs to take better decisions, to have access to better knowledge, to better data, so that he can take better decisions. We will have systems, artificial intelligence, that will allow some of the drones, of the robots, to act on the by itself, but it will still be the farmer who will make those decisions and will decide what is the robot going to do and what kind of technology I'm going to deploy to my farm. So I think I cannot tell you this will be the technology that will make that will change, but I see the farmer to have access to a wide range of technologies, including satellite technology, drones, artificial intelligence, plant breeding, and it will bring everything together to continue delivering not only food security, but a good quality and affordable food for the EU and beyond the EU.
Great, thank you, Daniel. Ilias, I might come to you for a question on a specific EO question. Something we've noticed in our day-to-day working lives at Evenflow is the popular movement that seems to be coming up is carbon farming and the reduction of CO2 using earth observation as a means of monitoring grasslands or forestry. What do you have any opinions on that? What do you see the future of EO in reducing CO2 emissions?
I think from my perspective is that what the Earth observation products can provide is good information and in space and also in time. So as what we have been lacking so far is a good database, like with historical records at this fine spatio-temporal resolution, and with Earth observations we have that opportunity. So as long as we kind of like have these records, we can make our assessments. We can see how the trends, what type of trends we are having, and based on that we could make some kind of like decisions, some policy making. And with the introduction of kind of like artificial intelligence, machine learning, or other kind of like sophisticated methods, we can make predictions as well. And I think this would be kind of like a good way to move forward.
And Ilias, go into some of the discussion or the questions on the panel on the side. I see Roman is talking about agri-insurance. He says the EO industry still lacks some functionality to be best suited for agricultural insurance. it isn't fully developed or integrated into their products. Would you agree with this? Do you think what can be done to address this issue?
Yeah, I mean, I'm of course, everybody has their own opinion on that. I think we should not forget that we are moving forward. This is the most important one. The products that are available from Earth observations, they have evolved significantly over the past years, and this is what the big message stay with us. With all the different challenges, technological challenges, image-related challenges, our objective should be more like to extract the information and use that information. And I think even for the insurance applications, there's high opportunities.
Great, thank you, Elias. I might just go back to the poll on wave 3 again. As Vic mentioned, the current winner of the where they see EO generating most value in the agri-food sector is precision farming variable rate application. Maybe not completely unexpected. And then again, vegetation monitoring and yield prediction. Interesting that agri-insurance also got no votes, and supply chain monitoring, as was mentioned, there may need to be some further development in that, taking information from other sources. But I'd like to thank everybody for answering the polls, and they've been very interactive. It's been great. I think we can bring the session to a close now. First of all, the graphic designer has done an amazing job. This will all go into the plenary, and this will be used to feedback on what we discussed about. So I'd like to thank the graphic designer. That's amazing. I'd also like to thank our sector lead, Daniel, Elias, the EO evangelist, and our 3 panelists for coming and sharing their thoughts. It's been very interesting. Thank you all. And thank you to the audience for being very interactive. That's it from us. We'll hopefully see you all again soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.